Alright guys, Technical here again today, and I want to go through the Luminosity situation and what could potentially happen and what the next steps should be for this Luminosity team in towards the future in the short term and also in the long term when the roster change period comes up after City Bell Anaheim. We'll go through all the details today. So yeah, like if you guys enjoy, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below, as I'm sure you will. A lot of people have thoughts on exactly what LG should do, and I'll go through which of those I think could be reasonable and which may be over eager or like over egging the situation just slightly. Quick note on clips at the end of videos. You may notice that I haven't been doing them so much lately. Pretty much YouTube really likes watch time, so when I have a shorter video, something like 12 minutes, 13 minutes, usually I'll put a clip at the end to, you know, extend it. Whereas if the video is already like 14, 15, I'll probably save it for another one. If you guys have clips, so, you know, pretty much anything, Call of Duty can be pretty much any game, a cool clip, a funny moment, something like that, then if you want to submit it, the link to my Discord will be in the description box below, also in the pinned comment. You can go in the Discord, there's a channel called Clip Submissions, leave your clip in there, and it will most likely get put at the end of the video, even sometime in the distant future. But yeah, if you want to submit things and see your fantastic play recognized by a few people at the very least, then yeah, that's your way to do so. So anyway, let's go on with this one here. Did get this news yesterday. Also, thanks for all the happy birthday wishes. Lots of comments. I was thinking that there's 6,000 odd viewers on yesterday's video. At least 15 of you-ish must have shared my birthday. So happy birthday to all of you. And happy birthday to all the people who have their birthday today. Should be a fair few of you as well. So anyway, let's go on. This news story yesterday, Call of Duty 2019 is supposedly going to be called Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Now, I didn't really want to talk about this too much, doesn't mean too much, but I'm sure some of you guys haven't heard about this news, so I thought, I guess it's worth touching on. That Jason Schreier, he's done a lot of he's from Kotaku, did a lot of accurate reporting in the past, and he says that this game is called Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Of course, very confusing. We had Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare back in 2007. 2016, we had Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. And now, apparently 2019, we're going to have Call of Duty Modern Warfare. So apparently it's what's called a soft reboot, which pretty much means that the characters are going to be back. It may be some sort of combination. We'll have maps, I guess, from older games combined. Seems kind of fun, but still very interesting. And well, you know, I guess further confirmation that it is going to be a Modern Warfare game, that it is going to be boots on the ground, that maybe there will be no specialists. So yeah, I guess we've got things to be looking forward to. But still, it's very interesting that this is the route they decided to go down. Could have been a lot better names in my opinion. Let's move onwards then. Here we go. Luminosity Gaming have not had the best last couple of weeks, sitting here at 5-13 in the Pro League. They actually lost all 7 of their last matches that we will go through now, so in Division A, of course. Right at the bottom, one thing to note here is that they can still make playoffs, even if they play cross-division, so they would still have a chance anyway, but even if in cross-division they don't, you know, mollywop everyone and become God tier again, there is this thing where there's actually 10 teams in the playoffs this year. The top 4 teams will qualify, and then out of the bottom 8, they will play through a single elim bracket, and the top 2 teams will qualify for playoffs anyway. So that's why I think right now that LG, they've just given up, because they know that they're not going to be good enough to make it top 4. So there's pretty much no incentive apart from the cash bonuses you get for each win, which probably isn't that significant. Not that much incentive to do incredibly well, because you still have a chance to qualify for playoffs. You only have to win like 2 series against the other, you know, bottom teams to make it all the way through. So, you know, interesting. Maybe that's something that MLG can consider and have a look at in the future. But I've not had the best couple of weeks. Here are their results. We have LG FaZe, 3-0 loss. LG EG, 3-1. Midnight, they get 3-0'd by them. Then we have Rogowski beat them 3-1. UYU beat them 3-1. Genji beat them 3-1. And then that 3-0 versus Optic Gaming, that interesting series with the quadruple snipers, all that stuff. So one thing to mention about this is from the roster submission section of the CDBO handbook. I'll leave this linked down below. I'll also leave the Charlie Intel article that I talked about a second ago down below as well, so you can go and check these out in more detail. But what's interesting here is that for this week, of course, we did see this news from, you know, Luminosity. We talked about this a couple of days ago, or I guess it was actually yesterday. Gunless will be moved to our substitute roster, and our coach and former professional player, Ricky Big Dick Stacey, will be moved to the starting roster. Very nice. So he's now in the team. Of course, that final match against Optic Gaming was played without Gunless on the squad. This was Gunless's statement on the matter. If it'll load, the only thing I'm going to say is I didn't force myself on the bench, and I respect the organisation's decision and whatever they decide to do. So it wasn't his decision to go on the bench. Have seen it in the past with Gunless back in on E United, right, in Infinite Warfare, when he decided to bench himself, wasn't going so well, ended up getting onto FaZe Clan. They swapped out with Clayster, and Clayster's still in E United to this day, if you guys weren't aware of the history. But the interesting part is this paragraph right here. In order to field a player from their substitute roster during the regular season, teams must submit their request to the administration of a minimum of 24 hours prior to the start of the corresponding week's matches. So this is what a lot of people were saying with Ricky trying to come into the team. They were thinking that maybe LG just can't do this because you have to submit your roster for that week. But there are exceptions if it's an emergency substitution. Now, emergency to me sounds a lot like, okay, a player falls ill, or something dramatic circumstance happens when the player has to go home, or something along those lines, rather than they just want to make a roster change, effectively was what this was. And it doesn't seem like Gunless was, I mean, even though Gunless may not have been turning up to scrims and not particularly willing to improve, it wasn't like he was refusing to play. He would have still come along and played the matches. So anyway, not particularly an emergency. I can understand why MLG decided to kind of break their rules to some degree and not really follow them, because LG were kind of screwed anyway. They're already 0-6 going up against Optic. Like, it's not going to be a fun time. But what it does mean is that if this rule isn't taken to be completely literal, then what other rules are going to be taken literally as well? So one thing I wanted to propose here was that a lot of people have been suggesting that this following change is made. We had Ricky come into the team as the ICR, and then we had Formal and Classic on the Maddoxes. Formal was going off on the Maddox. It makes a lot of sense that he should be on the Maddox at all costs, right? And this is what Aches said. Okay, no, actually, first of all, let's just go through this real quick. These are the roster change periods. The final one is June 17th to the 20th. So they cannot make any particular roster change. They cannot swap out any players until the 17th of June after CW Anaheim. So the 6 guys they have right now, of course, Formal, Gunless is now on the bench, Slacked, John, Classic, and Ricky. Those 6 are the only 6 they can form a 5-man roster of. Now, what's interesting is that Ricky's in the team now. He was their substitute and coach, and Gunless is on the bench. But I'm not sure whether they're allowed to change out their substitute for a different player. I'm not sure. It doesn't really make it too clear in the rules as to whether, for example, you could put Gunless back in the team and put Classic on the bench, because that's what a lot of people have been suggesting. That was kind of what I was going for. I'll have a look at what Ake suggests here in just a second, but that's a little bit more longer term thing. So yeah, that's what a lot of people are suggesting. I'm not sure whether it's possible, because just to what I just looked at there about MLG not really, it wasn't really an emergency substitution. I think this kind of thing would be allowed. If Luminosity wanted to, pre-Anaheim, they might be able to put Gunless back into the team, and instead of putting Ricky back on the bench, have Classic, go on the bench instead. Because, of course, a lot of people are suggesting, well, of course, you put Gunless here on the Maddox, you put Formal on the Maddox as well, then you have Slacked and John on your SMGs, and then Formal and Gunless dominant Maddox duo, and then you have your 5th either be Classic with an ICR or Ricky. And a lot of people suggesting, oh, well, this is obvious, right? Crone says here, the guy who runs the Intel Call of Duty account, why is it everyone in the world knows Formal should be on the Maddox apart from LG? I think maybe what he's implying by this question is a little bit different to the actual answer, in that probably LG have tried it. I'd be very surprised if they haven't tried, in practice at least, Classic going on to an ICR and seeing how it goes with them on the Maddoxes. But if you look at a lot of the top teams right now, the teams that are doing very, very well, Optic, Crimsix on the ICR, 100 Thieves, Octane, Gen G, Morks, Zero's been very good lately on FaZe. All these top teams seem to have a very good ICR. E United as well, of course, have RCTs on it. So I guess Luminosity thought that, especially Formal and Gunless, because they kind of traded blows between who's using the ICR, who's using the Maddox, and they would usually, one of them would take it. They're kind of thinking, well, we need a solid ICR on our team. We can't afford to both be Maddoxes and let Classic run it. And, maybe they tried Classic on it for a bit, similar to how Evil Geniuses did. They tried JCap on their ICR for a little bit, and then eventually they just put him back on the Maddox and put Phantoms on the ICR, because that ICR presence and someone putting up really good numbers with that weapon does seem very important. So it's a difficult situation, of course, for LG right now, because a lot of people would say you put Classic and, or Ricky, which I think should be okay. You could do either or. And maybe Ricky would be a better main assault rifle than Classic would, to be honest. I think that's maybe a change that you could consider come CWL Anaheim. Of course, it's difficult because right now, gunless back in the team seems like your only chance to do well. This team is not going to do well at all with that current roster, with really only Formal in decent form right now. The rest of the guys not playing well particularly at all, and of course, what can you really expect from Ricky? So the ideal is obviously to get gunless back in the team. Whether he's going to be particularly happy with coming back in the team is difficult to say. Who does he want out the team? Who is he not meshing with? It's not as simple to say as if we take Classic on the bench and put Ricky in the team, Gunless is going to be, jumping with joy and coming back into the squad and playing up again. I'm sure he has his own issues with other members of the team, and of course that's what happens when things stop going your way. So whether they can even get Gunless back in the team and get him wanting to play again and, committed to practice and the like is difficult to say. Maybe they would in fact do better just keeping him on the bench and trying to form some sort of team cohesion, but it's going to be difficult when you're getting mollywopped in the league and you've got a couple of weeks practice coming up before Anaheim only. So that was the discussion on what they should do pre-Anaheim. I would suggest they should consider just doing whatever you can to get Gunless back in the squad. And maybe that requires putting Ricky on the ICR or whatever. It does make a lot of sense to try. Because, of course, back in the day when you had Classic using the Rampart at Fort Worth, that worked great because you can have Rampart, you can have him and Formal or whoever happened to be using the Maddox on that particular map, or I guess it was usually Gunless, and then Formal on the ICR, because then you had Gunless and the Classic on the Rampart doing very, very well in that kind of mid-tier role, and then Formal could have the ICR. But if you put Formal and Gunless on the Maddoxes, then you've got issues because your ICR player isn't going to be doing so well, and that's the issue with Classic being so good with the Rampart, and since that's not in the meta anymore, not being so good with the Maddox causes a lot of problems. And that's, I guess, is the next step to take here in this discussion, what they should do in this roster change period post Anaheim. So this is what Ake says in Crowder's stream. How about LG? I'm not sure, how much he's joking here, because calling Classic a trash can, he's probably just messing around a little bit. How about LG just stop being dumb as bricks, drop Classic, pick up a main AR, let Pierce rock, prob championship contender. And I think this is probably what they should do post Anaheim. They have these 4 days to change rosters. I'm sure a lot of other teams are going to be looking to change as well, because this is going into playoffs, this is going into champs, of course. So a lot of things for these teams to be considering. But Ake's suggestion here does seem to make a lot of sense. I think that keeping John and Slacked on the SMGs is probably your best bet, at least if you're going to make one change. It's possible you might be able to snag somebody, but I don't know right now which teams exactly you're going to be able to snatch these players off, unless one of the other top tier teams has already pulled performance at Anaheim and you can maybe snap up some of the guys off Splice. I don't know, get a Looney on your team or something like that. It's difficult to say exactly who might be available. Brack is a name that comes to mind, and of course this is interesting because where does he go? He's not a main assault rifle, put it that way. A lot of people are suggesting if you can get a good main AR, which really would be the ideal way, I think, to fix this team. Slacked and John overall they haven't been playing great this year, but on the whole, it's not a bad SMG duo. They've been doing pretty well. I do think the issue is that with Classic not being good with the Maddox and not being a good main assault rifle for what we can tell, that is the role which is contentious, because right now, Luminosity are kind of forced to have Gunless or Formal, your superstars, on an ICR, which isn't really their preferred role, so that they can at least have some impact with that weapon. Whereas, unfortunately, with Classic being in the situation he's in, it does seem like he is the first man to go, and in an ideal world, I guess you would get an assault rifle. Who exactly you would get is difficult. Assault is a guy that comes to mind. There's been talked about a little bit. He's currently a free agent on that, he was on the Evil Geniuses squad last year at the World Championship. Now he's a free agent on Envy. I think he's an unrestricted now. I think he tweeted that out. So he's not being held to any particular contract. If Luminosity wanted to get Assault, I think they could go after him, have him on the main AR, Formal and Gunless, who are aggressive players. It's not like they're slow by any means. It kind of feels a little bit that way because they've been using the ICRs this year, but with the Maddoxes in their preferred roles, I think they'd be very, very good. And then John and Slacked on the SMGs have tended to do better, I guess, towards the end of the years. So I guess that would be the plan, to try and get rid of Classic and get in a competent main assault rifle. I wonder if you guys have any other perspectives. What additional changes would you guys make? Because I'm sure some of you guys would say, well, okay, we need to cut Slacked, we need to cut John, just come down to because you can do it, get the duo of just Formal and Gunless, and then build around them. You know, who would you put on the team in that case? Because you'd need 2 SMG type players that could use it, which aren't easy to find. I feel like John and Slacked are about as good as you're going to get right now, unless you can somehow nab some great talents from other top teams. Maybe there's a chance of some of the Denial guys, or I don't really know what other teams you'd try and poach from, unless teams have particularly bad performances, Calm, Citadel, Anaheim. But we'll have to see where the times take us. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching the video as always, and comment your stuff down below, leave all your thoughts, and yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.